Elon Musk is here. He is chief executive of two startup companies with bold missions. He leads Tesla Motors, the electric car company that has attracted attention from both car enthusiasts and environmentalists as well. The company's powerful roadster, which can travel from 0 to 60 in less than 4 seconds, is entirely powered by batteries. The company plans to break into the mainstream auto market with an electric sedan as early as 2011. Musk is also founder and CEO of Space Exploration Technologies, a company trying to slash the cost of space travel. Last year, the company signed an agreement with NASA to send cargo to the International Space Station. And if that is not enough, he's also chairman of a growing company called Solar City that installs solar panels on homes and businesses. He has thrived in Silicon Valley, one of the co-founders of PayPal, the online payments company that eBay bought for $1.5 billion in 2002. I am pleased to have him here at this table for the first time. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I've been a big fan of the show for a long time.
Let's just talk about you first, so that if the audience does not know, growing up in South Africa.
Yeah.
And how did you end up in Canada?
I guess growing up in South Africa, it was very technology oriented, and I taught myself how to program computers, mostly because I wanted to program games. Right. And when I was about 12, I sold my first game, and whenever I'd read about technology and great innovation, it was coming from the United States, and so it was that's where I wanted to be. And I tried to convince my parents to move there, and neither of them would. They were divorced. I tried to, my mother, neither would do it. My mother later moved back to initially Canada and then the U.S. And so when I was 17, as soon as I got my Canadian passport, 3 weeks later I was in Canada.
So here you are, and you come to Canada and make it to the United States, and then you and several other guys come together and create PayPal. Right. And you sell it to eBay for $5 billion.
Yeah. So after PayPal, that gave me a fair bit of capital, and there were 3 areas. When I was in college, there were 3 areas that I thought would most affect the future of humanity. And those were the internet, the transition to a sustainable energy and transportation sector, and the third was space exploration, in particular the extension of life to multiple planets. Now, I didn't ever expect to be involved in the third one, but that seemed to me that's something that would be very important for the future. Right. And with the capital that I got from the sale of PayPal, I was able to go into both those areas. And so hence SpaceX and in the space, and then in the sustainable energy and transportation, you've got Solar City and Tesla.
Let me talk about space exploration just for a moment. How is it going in terms of creating the systems that will engage us in space exploration, not just for governments and not just for NASA, but for private citizens as well?
Well, you have to divide the efforts that are going on into what is an orbit class effort versus a suborbital class effort, and there's really a very big difference. But the general public doesn't understand the difference between getting to space and getting to orbit, and so it's important to make that distinction. To do a suborbital flight, you need a terminal velocity of around Mach 3. Right. To get to orbit, you need a terminal velocity of Mach 25. It's a huge difference, and because the energy required to do that scales with the square of the velocity. So suborbital might be 9 units of energy. Orbit is 625 units of energy. So it's only about 1.5% of the energy of orbit is required to get to suborbit. So there are a number of efforts in the suborbital category that certainly could grow one day to orbital. There's Jeff Bezos has an effort. And I know that's something that's pretty important.
Is Branson involved in this or not?
Branson, absolutely. Right. Not so much directly from the technology standpoint, but from he's funding that development at scale composites in California.
And what are you doing?
So we're in the orbit class, and that's it's a lot more capital, and that's really where you're sort of pushing the ragged edge of what's physically possible. And last year we got to orbit for the first time with our rocket, and that was certainly a huge relief and a milestone.
Yeah, and so what's the next step? You're going to rocket into orbit.
Yeah. So next month we were putting a satellite for Malaysia into orbit, and then
from Malaysia.
For Malaysia.
Oh, for Malaysia.
Yes, a Malaysian satellite. But in the rocket business, the rocket company does the launch. It's not like the airline business. So you don't sell the rocket, you sell the launch.
Right.
And then later this year, we'll be launching our big rocket from Cape Canaveral. That's the Falcon 9, and that's the one that's going to be servicing the space station, among other things.
Is there a philosophy here that somehow the private sector can do a lot more than it has done in areas that seem, because of the size, reserved for government?
Yeah, definitely. The private sector is very good at optimization and innovation. I mean, the private sector is generally better at doing things than the government. I think that's fair to say. But there are certain things that the government that are suited to the government, like basic research and that sort of thing. So as far as SpaceX, the reason that there hasn't been a huge number of a big improvement in the space industry, I think is because of it's very difficult for Schumpeter's creative destruction process to come into effect, because it is such a significant amount of capital that's needed to start a rocket company, and it's a very difficult technical challenge. And the number of people that really understand rocketry in the world is a very small number. So it's really a huge barriers to entry. And that's why we haven't seen the forcing function of improvement that there should have been over the years.
And your understanding came from this was not what you studied in college.
Well, I studied physics. But
studying physics and studying rocket science
right.
is a very different thing.
Yeah, no, it gives you the basics. It gives you the basics, good framework, good analytical framework.
Yeah.
But no, I picked it up along the way. But
what is your core competence, you think?
I think it's
technology.
Technology, yeah. Technology. If something has to be designed and invented, and you have to figure out how to ensure that the value of the thing you create is greater than the cost of the inputs, then that's probably my core skill.
Now bring me to the car, and I drove a car this afternoon.
So far, so good.
Which was terrific. It's the Roadster.
Yeah.
Where does that stand? You obviously, I've been in the Google parking lot.
Yeah. Okay. You would have seen a few there.
I've seen a few there.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's true in other places in Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's particularly a car that appeals to people in Silicon Valley because of interest in technology and high performance and lots of other things, or what? Whether there are a lot of rich people who are willing to spend that kind of money for something they think is on the cutting edge of causes they believe in, sustainable energy.
Right.
Tell me about where you are in this development of this electric car, which has, most of all, this extraordinary sort of power.
Yeah. 0 to 60 time at 3.9 seconds,
this is extraordinary when you think about the sports cars and anything else that's out on the road today.
Yeah, in fact, on the Top Gear test track, our standard Roadster beats a Porsche GT3.
Exactly,
which
that's
is
my point.
Not
that's
bad.
A reference.
and the Roadster Sport will do even better.
Yeah.
But
you've also said, in terms of where you want to go, that developing a high-performance sports car is not what this is about.
Absolutely.
This is about something else, and you want to develop a sedan.
Yeah, the whole purpose behind Tesla, the reason I put so much of my time and money into helping create the business is we want to serve as a catalyst for accelerating the electric car revolution. The price of gas at the pump does not reflect the true cost of gasoline because you have a consumption of a public good. It's one of the most. It's really a common problem in economics. You have the same thing in fishing, where because there's no cost to fishing stocks, people just overfish and you have disaster that ensues. Right. And here we're not paying for the cost of the CO2 concentration in the oceans and atmospheres. We're not paying for all the ancillary effects of the wars and all the other things at the gas pump. So you effectively have a subsidy taking place at the gas pump because of that. So the only way to bridge that is with innovation, is to try to make electric cars better sooner than they would otherwise be.